Hey, oh, good welcome to We Love Guitars. I've got something in my shoe or my slipper. Yes, busy day today, lots of stuff, including resurrecting this old thing, which was something I started actually a couple of years ago. It's known as T4, so it's kind of got left behind some of the other T's, but actually it deserves to live, and I've cut a bunch of weight relief into it underneath the pickguard scratch plate. So actually it's going to be quite cool. Anyway, that's not the big deal. What we're here for today, is for this limited edition. Wonders where there's another strap to use. Limited edition Epiphone Sheraton. Look at this. What a beauty this is. Look at that. In the Union Jack Colors. It's got, this is the, I don't know, it's got a plectrum floating around in it, I think. Yeah, I think, anyway, I don't think there's that much in the way of, yeah, it's a plectrum. There it is. Yeah, this is, of course I want to get this out. Sticky tape on the end of something. Yeah, yeah, this is the Epiphone Sheraton limited edition, and like I say, I'm not, I don't know an awful lot about these types of things, so this is new to me. So I get on the internet and have a look around, see what's there, and there's a couple. Seems like there's a couple of different incarnations of this Union Jack style guitar. One of them's called Supernova, and it seems to be a cheaper or less expensive version. Gibson plectrum, no less. Okay, so yeah, but this is the limited edition beastie, and this has well, what does it have? It has Gibson mini humbuckers in it for a start, and there's 18-to-1 Grover tuners, and yeah, it's quite weighty actually. It's got a real nice kind of abalone type, those things, you know what I mean, what are they called? Fret markers, position markers. Just looking at this now, it's in for a setup to make it as easy to play as possible, and actually looking at this right from the outset, it doesn't seem that bad at all. Nice sustain to it. One of the things that we're going to do is put take this plastic nut off, and we're going to put an adjustable one on. Now, this guitar was given by Ian to his daughter. Ping, see that nut's not doing very well. Yuck. So yeah, we'll put an adjustable on, and we'll put new strings on, and we'll give it all a good clean and check out, make sure everything's working. Let me get a strap. I suppose this is the Gallagher, whichever Gallagher. Who plays one like this? Liam, Neil, Noel, Niall Gallagher's. Anyway, whoever it is, one of them Oasis types. One of them northern lads. I saw one of them on the telly the other day, and he was well miserable. I've never seen anybody quite so miserable. But I'll get to the jack plug. Yeah, so it's a nice big 335 style, and it is big. Ooh. It's got this big tailpiece on as well. which technically, though some people say, should be a sustained killer in the jazz guitar tradition. But this sits really nicely, or certainly on this Strat. Balance is nice. I bet everything about it's nice too. Power coming through there. Ting. Ping. Even on a very clean channel, these things sound like they've got quite a lot of heat to them. That's on totally clean, all the gain backed off. What the output is on them. Because imagine you put some crunch on that, and that thing will be howling. Pickup as well. Spring or something. I'll take that out and have a look. Well, that is those are hot. They really are. I haven't seen what the output or the resistance or whatever is on those pickups, but they're nice. We've really got some body to them. So this nice thing. I mean, last few Epiphones I've seen through have really impressed me. They've been in really good condition, play great. So I reckon we're on for the same sort of thing with this one. Like I say, the pickup has dropped down. It's lost its spring, so we can lift that up and have a look and see if we can retrieve it or replace it if we need to. Yeah, so I don't anticipate that this needs an awful lot. It's relatively low as is. Let's have a look at a couple of things on it first of all. Let's see what the neck relief is like. Very, very slight. Hardly any, in fact. Wow, practically flat, which will make it feel a lot easier to play anyway as default. I would reckon that's less than, well, I reckon that wouldn't be even 1/10 of a millimetre, that relief. Let's put a cap on here and have a little see. Matrix, please. Yeah. So this thing looks like it's going up in value. This guitar. Wow, that's quite low. Yeah. From what I've seen, I mean, the prices that they're selling, the few I've seen selling, are quite high. But again, what people are trying to get for them and what they're actually worth, or what you can actually sell them for, varies. But they're, I'd say, well over £1,000 for one of these. It's below even a tenth of a mil, so it's practically no relief. And actually, it's not playing badly at all. It's not causing it. It's not banging or slapping out on there. We might, if we go any lower with the action, then we might need to do a small, or we might need to keep an eye on that. So this is on the last fret. It's currently 2.2, something like that. 2.2 on the low, and we're looking at about, wow, well, it's pretty low on the high E. Actually, we're looking at 1 already, so it's quite a low action up here. Yeah, these are struggling a bit at this low action. Not surprising. 1mm on the high E and with a flat neck like this is a bit of a push. Just handling it very well. Obviously, we're getting higher action as we go down the bass side of it now. Expect all of that to play, really. Okay. Yeah, I'm choking out up there. Zizzing a bit down there. Well, that's pretty adventurous, I've got to say. For you know, I mean, it's good for Ian's daughter, because she, no doubt, this makes this feel a lot easier to play. If I had a first guitar set up like this, I would have been in heaven. But what we're going to do is we're going to do the things I can do to this, and one of them is I can make this play a little bit lower on the bass strings. We've got a little tiny, we've got a little slot here, but it's a Gibson style mixed, or it's a kind of combination. Gibson meets Epiphone, so it's kind of Gibson style. But did I go? Where am I going? I'm going in. It's got a little tiny, the post that comes through. It's very small. I don't know how you put it. Very small post, but it has still got a screwdriver slot in the top, but not like the Chinese-made looking thing. Although this may be, where's this made? Can't remember. Korean maybe. Okay. That's still, well, that's still coming up as close to 2, so let's dial it back down a bit more. Actually quite easy to turn as well, which is good. Alright, so what we got here is we're fractionally over the 1, or we're now down on the 1.5mm. Let's see how that goes. So I can make a small difference to the playing action, but what I can also do is make this stay in tune, and that's the important thing. Okay, so we've got choked out notes there. This might even be fractionally lower now that we've gone down on one side as well. So let's just take a double check on this. Yeah, mean, that's under. Let's just get this to the 1.2 that I would aim for. I mean, it's currently set on 1, which, as I say, is a little bit adventurous. Okay, out of tune. Yeah. Okay. And as always with these tunematic bridges, these heights are quite radically different. The G always stands up quite tall compared to everything else. I know it's going over a radius, but it's never very smooth. And if you look at it side on, you always see the G kind of standing at a mile. But all right, so let's bounce some more light off this. Now down at this end, we've got a variety of the heights that kind of vary down here, and they are a range of different heights, and I think at worst that's probably about 0.6, so it's not massively out, but it can be improved quite a bit. Certainly that's the benefit of using an adjustable nut on this. So let's just drop these off for a second and we'll just check out this one here. Yeah, so that's 0.6. Excuse me, that's 0.6. So about the worst of them is 0.6. So it's not terrible. It would have been higher before we lowered the action. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give everything a pull and get it stabilized again. What? Ping. Nice, it's all nice. Okay, so we've lowered it down a little bit on the action. We're going to change this nut for an adjustable one, which I'll make up. And what I'll do, in order to make it up, I'm going to use a base, one of my milliput bases, and they look like great giant squashed slugs to begin with. But I'll cut this down, and it's got an impression of the tusk nut fitted in there. So I'll get the tusk adjustable insert, and it will fit in there, and we'll cut around, and then we'll shape this down to fit the particular guitar. And when we've got it to the exact right size, then we'll kind of seal it in place. And that, with the tusk adjustable nut, will make a very, very dependable tuning, which I think more and more that I use them, the more I'm convinced. Even this, for some people, they're not sure about the look with a nut that comes in two parts effectively. But I have to say, the consideration about that really becomes secondary for me. I think the tuning stability is critical, and having a guitar that you'll continually go to play because it's in tune, and you don't get that sort of frustrating experience of constantly stopping to retune it. To me, that's kind of paramount, really, and it trumps the other factors about, well, it looks a bit different, a bit unusual. So I'm going to begin with exactly that. So I'm going to disengage this nut. Now this is the standard factory Epiphone white plastic nut, and it kind of works. I mean, I'm not knocking it. It's a little bit, this one's a little bit grippy and it's pinging, so the slots are retaining, or they're holding onto the strings, and as a result that will result in quite a significant lack of tuning stability, and that will really spoil the playing of this guitar. Now these nuts are very lightly fixed, and they're not lacquered or resined over or anything. So resined, you know what I mean, polyed is the word I should find. Now they also sit in the slot, so they just need a bit of loosening up, and then you kind of pull them up out of the slot to begin with, and then they come out. I saw on the advertising that they said it was kind of synthetic bone or something, but I wouldn't call that synthetic bone, to be honest. I'd call that plastic. But you know, what the heck. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and get the adjustable nut, and I'm going to spend a bit of time choosing which of these base units. I've got about 3 or 4 that I can choose from. I need to make some more at some point, but I'll just get one of these, get the most appropriate looking one. Thank you, I'll be there now. Yeah, I'll choose the most appropriate looking one. The issue with these nuts is they need to be quite tall, but I do spend a lot of time taking them down, and what we really need is we need the combination of the insert sitting inside of this to leave the strings sitting on the fret. We want them touching the fret, and then we do our raising and our adjusting from that point onwards. Okay, I'm going to go and find one of those. I'll see you shortly. Okay, here we have the tailor-made adjustable tusk adjustable nut. So just the last thing for today before I wrap up, just to show you. Don't worry, there's a bit of dust here, but that's cool. We'll move that around. So there you go, that sits in there like that, and we'll put these back on. Oh, I'll tell you what we'll do before we do that. We'll mark up the frets in preparatory to doing fret leveling. We might as well. Now then, when I put these strings back on, we'll hold the new nut in place, and we can do the fret leveling with the new nut on. Okay. Nice. So, you won't see it moves until we've glued it in place, but that's fine for now. Now straight away you'll see that the strings are pressing, you may see, the strings are pressing straight onto the first fret. Well, this is fine. So we get our little, well, first of all we'll tighten it up to pitch. Well, no, we'll lift it first, ready? Up goes the bass end, and up goes the treble end. Let's just see where this is sitting at the minute. Now I'm just checking this to make sure it's sitting flush against the flush against the side here, and there's nothing obstructing it. Okay, just make sure there's no glue or anything obstructing there. Just feeling the way this is sitting on there. Let's just have a look at that. Okay. Twang. Right, so let's just double check again. The height will go a little bit higher on the bass side. Okay. Tune it one more time. Okay, there we have it. New nut on, loads of dust everywhere. New nut on and ready to level the frets, which I'll do now because we won't take long to do it, but then I'll do all the polishing out tomorrow. So, remembering we've got very little relief in the neck to work with anyway, so I'm going to, we don't expect to have hardly any curve at all in the rod that we're using. Okay, so put it on 3 little things, and that's almost there on slack, so it's practically flat to kick off with. We'll go with that. So we take the first string off the edge, and then we pull apart the strings, and now we're going to just let the leveling tool with its 400 grit sandpaper on it just gently allow that to pick up any high frets wherever they may be. And I'm seeing a couple come up already, but again it's very minor and it's very gentle leveling. So we expect to, we can pick out the high frets, so really there, maybe one there, so not a lot. The rest are just touching, or just getting touched by the sandpaper. And now what we're just interested to know is at this very low action, now I'm thinking that this slight ziz here could be because there is actually no relief whatsoever on this neck. So I think we need to give it a tiny bit to work with. So I'm going to take the truss rod and slack off very slightly the truss rod. Now, the purpose of the truss rod is to counteract the pull of the strings, and put it another way, the string's tendency to want to pull the neck into a curve, right? So it's trying to pull upwards at both ends into a relief curve. And so the truss rod exists to allow you to control that and to have as much or as little curvature as you want. Now at this point in time, this is very stiff, and I'm not sure if it's doing much, which is just slightly concerning. What I'm trying to do is to, there we go, yeah, putting a little bit more relief curvature into the neck. Now what you'll find is now this won't zing anymore. Or hardly compared to before. So that's what a tiny bit of extra curvature in the neck will do. And what we can continue to do is to just do a little bit more leveling, and then we'll move on. So the amount of relief I allowed the strings to pull into the neck there is a very, very small amount. It's hardly any different. But the reason why you don't really want the neck to be completely flat is that the strings need a little bit of room to spin when they're moving. It works fine. Yeah, so if it's completely flat, there's often not enough room where the strings move most in their midpoint, or close to their midpoint, and with the result that often they can buzz out against the fingerboard when you strike them, when you hit them or strum them quite hard. Now we've got a bit more curvature now than we had before, so we need to put a little bit more into this rod. And that's probably a little tiny bit less. A bit more. So backwards and forwardsing till we get the right amount. It's very, very fine adjustments here. Okay, that's good. And then we'll do the same for this string. So what I'm doing is I'm going just up and down in what I call the B track, which is where the B string lives, and a little bit side to side of that as well. So it's kind of moving with the shape of the profile of the neck. Again, so I can see there's a high fret here and there's a couple of high frets here, which will be causing some of the zinging sounds we were hearing earlier on. So we want them all to play cleanly, and then more importantly, we want the bends to work cleanly. Now, and remember before they were choking up there, now they're freeing up. Now we're going to free that final bit up, because it was choking mostly as the string bends over, the high E string was bending over into the what I call the G track. So now we're going to level the G track, which will free up those bends, and this needs a tiny bit more curvature on it. There we go. Right, so okay, so watch now as we just level out the G track now, and I'm expecting to see a bit of cutting going on right up here on these last fret at the top somewhere. That's where I'm thinking we'll have some high frets as well. And I can see with that one in the middle is still quite high comparatively, that one there, and then there's one here and there's one there. So that could be the one that's getting in the way on the high bend. So, and each time we do that leveling, we go and make sure the individual notes play. Something rattling on the bridge there. That's the bridge rattling. So you have to notice, you have to be able to tell what's fret buzz. Okay, that's just bending out on that top one there, so we'll do it. I'll just re-check the recalibrate the bar, but we'll go and do a little bit more in that G track just to make sure we get that top, free up that top bend, highest possible bend. Okay, I'll slack this down a bit. More. It's absolutely tiny adjustments. It's almost like not worth picking the thing up for, but it does make a difference. So here we have the G track again. Yeah, so to be able to tell what's rattling and not mistake it for fret buzz, because the Tune-o-matic bridge very often does rattle, which is a very annoying part of it. So I'm concentrating a little bit more on this top end now, because I know that I've got a very slight choke at the highest bends. Now, the reason I'm doing this is it's alright on that fret there, but this is a very low action. It's about 1 millimeter, so we're really below the action that I would even normally go for. So this is, there you go. There we go. So we're really pushing it, but there's no harm in sort of setting the bar high. That's not very good metaphor, or whatever the word is, turn of phrase. But anyway, so now I'm moving on to the D track. And basically we go all the way across, and then once we've done it, we'll have leveled all the frets, and then it's a matter of reprofiling the frets that we've leveled, making sure that we return them to a nice round profile, so that any flat spots are removed, but without lowering the frets any further. So we keep them exactly the same height as they were. And then after we've done that, we polish all the frets out through a series of sandpapers and micromesh cloths, so that they're all polished out to a nice glittering, smooth finish together. So now I'm doing the D track where the D string lives, and what I'm seeing is actually got a couple of really high frets in the way of all of this, one here and one there, but otherwise not too bad. Yep, that's good. So this is it's just improving it. This wasn't bad at all, this guitar, but we're just doing a little bit of extra help to take the action down as low as it can go, and to just make the frets comply with that nice low action. And it's actually it's what makes this method a bit different to lots of others, is that we choose the action we want, and then we make the frets kind of comply with that, instead of the frets dictating what the action can or can't be, which is typically how it is on most guitars. Okay, so some low ones here, but they're not too big of a problem. One little struggling one right at the top there, but again, like I said, this is a very low action. It was pretty low when it came to me, but we've lowered even more, so we're really kind of pushing it to its limits right now, which is not a problem at all. I like to do that, and then I'll send it back playing as low as it possibly can, and if you prefer it, or your daughter prefers it slightly higher, then that's easy to do just by taking the bridge up a tiny little bit and retuning. And I know there's a high spot right at the end here, so I'm just going to kind of concentrate a little bit more on this end, make sure that it's getting leveled. These frets are leveled relative to each other. You can see where it's taken down the high fret, which is good. So we had a struggling fret at the top there. all the way. Now don't expect it to be in tune. There we go. Right, that's the fret leveling done. And now I can take off the original strings because we don't need those anymore. These are going to be chucked away or kept for sacrificial strings. Actually, they're pretty grubby, so I'm going to chuck them away. And then while the strings are off, I'm going to take care of that humbucker that's flopping around down there, and then also give the whole of the guitar a clean. Oh, there we go. Okay, this is how they're attached under there, are they? Yep. A bit like my Duesenberg bridge. Lightly held on. Yeah, so we'll give it all a good clean up, and I'll do that tomorrow. Yeah, it's pretty grubby. And then I'll just double check the nut actually and make sure that it's, there you go. That was undoing that one and it still broke. Yeah, we'll just make sure the nut's fitted in place. So right now it's take it off. There we go. And I'll check things like the jack socket to make sure that's not loose as well. There's the broken off bit of wire. Okay, in the metal recycling bin, all of that. Okay, so while we're here, let's put the fret leveling stuff away. So while we're here, let's just lift this up a bit. And let's just look under here and see why this is flopped down. All of this has needed a good clean because it's really dusty, so we'll take everything off. The thing about having leveled the frets is I've leveled the frets for a certain action, a low action. It means I can take the bridge off, move all the parts around, clean everything up, and it doesn't matter what I do with these. In fact, I could take these out if I wanted to for cleaning purposes. And then we know that once we put it back together again, we can take the action right down to where it was before, really low, and it will just play because the neck will return under loading to its same shape, and therefore the action will be the same and the frets will be level. Now here we have, what's happened here? Ooh, okay, well there's no springs at all in here, which is odd. So these really, I don't know how well you can see this. Oh, there were springs, but they've come out. Okay, that's not brilliant. They should be between the somebody's put these in wrong, how bizarre. Those springs should be between the pickup and the let's get the gun thing. It should be in between, is what I'm trying to say. That's very odd. So that wouldn't give you any adjustability at all. So we'll have to take this out. Take these out. Actually, they're not really screwed in there, but They are a little bit. One and two. How strange. That's definitely not right. So rather than, just to be sure I don't lose anything, your springs should be not free and flopping about, they should be there. Right? And then we'll put that back in there. And the idea is the spring allows you to set them up or down. It's very kind of them to leave them at least magneted to the underside of the pickups. I mean, that's good of them. This is always a confusingly horrible thing to be doing. Very primitive. Come on, in the hole. Thank you. There's one. And then there's the other one. Now, once I put these back this way, you will now have adjustability back, and you can raise and lower the pickups wherever you want them. I can't believe this would have been done in the factory. It's a fundamental mistake. Right, there we go. We are attached. Now, I'm wondering if the person who fitted them thought they were supposed to sit between the pickup and the floor of the thing, which they don't. By the way, right, so the first thing I'm just going to do is I'm just going to get some of this immediate dust around the edge of here away, so we can just put this back in. Which way up was this? It was that way. Okay, so what we can do is, while we're at it, we can just drop in the fixing screws again and drop them all in. Put it on minimum torque so you don't run the risk of over tightening and cracking any plastic. And you see how low that's sitting now? That won't be the case when we now do something we couldn't have done before, which is this. Hello! Welcome! Ta-da! Very odd. I wonder if this has been done the same. Shall we find out? Yes. Funny, and I needed a couple of these little pieces, mini pickup surrounds, and I'll show you what I did instead. I didn't have any spare. Now those are done the correct way around, you see. Look, the springs are already in there. Ta-da! Well, well, well. But this is what I did. In the absence of having a pair of those surrounds, I made some very careful foam cutouts, and these are now held in pressure with this foam, like a kind of flooring foam that I've cut. Could make them a little tidier, but they're cut to exact fit. Drew around them, cut them, tailored them to the exact fit. And now these aren't held in by anything except the foam. But I can press them down or up, pull them up as much as I like. This, I find it actually a lot more satisfying than sticking. This isn't so bad when you hang them from a ring, but when you body mount them, you're sticking bits of, you know, spiky screws into the wood inside the guitar. I find that a bit of a crude way of doing things, personally. Anyway, so I'm just cleaning around the edges of these so that when they go back on there, they look tidy, nice and clean. And when I clean the headstock, I'm going to take the tuners right off, because you can get a really nice clean once the tuners are off that you can't get with the tuners on. I think it's a nice little touch to be able to do. Right, now having sorted those out, or that one I should say, which was very bizarre why that was the way it was. We've got a tiny little bit of paper or something caught there. Clean that one up a bit. Got some gunge on it. Get some solvent on that in a minute. So what I'm going to do before we finish up for the night is I'm going to now just remark all the frets once again, and this is to allow me to re-profile them or reshape them with a special tool, but without lowering them any, because we've just gone to all the trouble of making them level in relation to each other, relatively level. Now what I'm going to do is to use this StewMac profiling tool, and I'm going to just go down the frets and use this to round off the shoulders of any of these frets that have been flattened. Now I move quite quickly because we've taken very little off really. Occasionally where more has been taken off I might stop and spend a little longer, and you kind of know from that you'll be able to spot which are the higher frets in this whole set. For example, that one was one. So this is a very simple but effective process for re-profiling the shape of the fret, so we return it to as close to an arch shape as possible instead of the slightly flattened arch that we've currently got. Once that's done, then the frets are ready for the final polishing out, which I will do tomorrow. And in order to do that, what I'll do is I'll mask off the whole of the fretboard to protect the wood, and also the this end of the guitar as well, to make sure that it doesn't get scratched by the sandpaper or anything. Now this one was quite high, and that's where we were getting choking out on some of the bends, so I've had to work a little bit harder on that one. But that's all it took there, and so we're now ready to basically get all of the get the frets strapped up, taped up with masking tape. And what I'll do is I'll do that cleaning, the polishing of the frets, and once that's done, then I'll take the tuners off and we'll give everything a polish over and give it a good clean up, and then give this a nice clean up too. I mean, we can make it look pretty good, but if we take the tuners off we can get right underneath. Quite often these are loose too, you can see, look, I can take that one right off, so these could do with adjusting and tightening up. Okay, so there we have it. Ta-da! I'm going to put it back in its box and take it indoors. This guitar, being worth what it is, I could well do without even the slightest, greatest unlikelihood of somebody sneaking in to the shed and pinching it overnight. I could do without that. So it's going in the house into safety as is, and will come out finished tomorrow. Okay, there we have it. See you tomorrow. Right, that was the tail end of the Jeremy Corbyn Glastonbury chant. Not that I'm a particular fan of Jeremy Corbyn or anything like that, but which I'm not really, but I just fancied singing the song. Anyway, look, I've done a polish of the whole guitar, which is kind of a bit silly in advance of doing this bit, but I'm now ready to sand out, polish the frets with 3 grades of paper and 9 grades of micro mesh, all of which will bring the frets up to a nice finish, but keep them pretty much as level as they were. Then be ready to restring, let you get a free Morris hair with your every guitar. Then we'll restring and everything will be ready to stretch out strings, tune up. But I'm not going to bore you with the polishing bit. It'll take about half an hour, and I'll go through all of these grades of paper and come out the other side. And well, I'll show you, I'll switch the video back on when I'm putting the strings back on. I had to consult the photograph of this just to know which way round this thing went on, just to be sure. Do these bits up to make sure they're not going to drop off. And I'll consult the picture again because they come off very easily, these, once the strings are off. They clip back on like that. Anyway, see you in a minute. Right, we are polished up. Now is the time, now is the winter of our oily rag to re-oil the fingerboard. Nice oily rag for that. Went out to Wadebridge last night, which is down in Cornwall. It's about an hour and a half, about an hour and a half drive from here. So we went down to see Malcolm play with his band Reignition, which was excellent. I play with Malcolm about once a month in a fun band. But yeah, we went down to see him play a gig at Wadebridge Town Hall, and it's really great to, as a player, to watch somebody you know and respect and playing with other people. And I think the one area for improvement that I would see, I mean, the first thing is that they're very tight, and there's actually I thought a really good interplay between the two guitars. They seem to have, most of the time, they seem to have clearly defined roles which work really well. And the only thing I would have kind of a note, but this is a personal thing of mine, is I think both guitars were too much on the distortion side, and I have a bugbear about that. I think it's just, it spoils, for me, it kind of takes away a little bit from the music. Often my kind of watchword is to try and play the thing as clean as possible, and then if it doesn't sound right, and if the original demands it, you kind of load in a bit of crunch if you can. But it's too often I think we all make the mistake, budding guitarists, or amateur guitarists, whatever you call that, but we all make the mistake of playing too dirty, probably. But it's excellent to see. Now, just coming back to this guitar a minute, I'm going to put tens on this. The reason for that is I hummed and hawed about it a bit, because Sadie, I know, plays with tens on this, and I was kind of saying to Ian, maybe we go to nines to make it even easier to bend, and so on and so on and so on. And then actually, the thing about that is that she's got the strength, because I saw a little video clip that Ian put on the Real Love Guitars page, and she's got the finger strength to play tens, and basically in doing this setup I've made this a bit easier, so maybe it makes sense to stick with the tens, not to kind of step back a grade. Now this is a tricky one to do, because we've got to hook these in here, we've got to get them anchored at this end and get it to stay in place. So I'm going to start with this one and see how easy or hard it is. So what I'm doing is, just before I do that, let's just make sure I tighten these up, because I didn't. Yeah, so I'll come back to this in a second, but yeah, so it was great to support Malcolm as well. And I've stopped playing. I resigned from the band I've been playing with up here in Tavistock. Musical differences. Anyway, could go into lots of detail, but I won't. I resigned from that actually on the run up to a couple of live gigs, because I found it. I'll just say, suffice to say, I found it impossible to discuss what I think are critical issues about tone and sound with band members, and it met with a hostile reaction. So I thought, I just can't do this. It's not the way I want to play. That's not the experience I want for playing in a band. So yeah, watching Malcolm is kind of slightly envious as well that he's got a good unit to play with. But good for him, I'm very pleased. I hope he still manages to make it across to our gentleman's noise sessions every couple of weeks. Okay, so I'm going to put the D and the E and the A on in order. Typically with this type of nut, it sort of makes sense to put them in from the middle outwards, so that you basically don't ping the nut off like I just did, but it's not the end of the world if you do. So this is the problem, you get it through this end and then the thing sort of drops out of this end. I have the same problem with my Duesenberg tremolo, and it always used to be a problem in things like Bigsby's as well. Hence they have a kind of this little unit they make for the big Bigsby which stops that happening. It's a string retainer thing. So I'm sort of pulling back a bit. It's not probably exact as I would normally do, but I'm having to guess how much to pull back on these this time. It might end up with a little bit more wire on the string on the peg than I would normally do. But okay, now what I'm going to do is just pop the nut back in for the time being and just basically hold it in place and put a little bit more tension on this side. Fine, fine, fine. Yes. Oh, after watching Malcolm's band, which actually I think the best thing, I said this to Malcolm last night, for me the best songs they did, really credible, were Sex Pistols songs. They did Pretty Vacant and God Save the Queen, and the vocalist is not the strongest, so he couldn't do the Johnny Rotten sound, but despite that, I closed my eyes and I was just listening to the sort of backing, and actually it was very credible Sex Pistols tone. I thought they very faithfully captured that. Of course, these strings don't pull through very far anyway, because there's not a lot of string going all the way back to these bridge points here. So, or these, what do they call that thing? You know, that thing. Anyhow, yes. So the band that came on afterwards was were called the Mighty Offbeats, and they were superb, I have to say. I mean, they were. You could see straight away a step up in experience and skill level from the kind of cover bands that Malcolm and I have jointly played in. Let's see if I can do this. Yeah, real. You know you're in the sort of presence of a band that's really tight. And they had a great brass section. They had a lady playing the saxophone and vocals, and in fact, the great thing about the band is they all did some vocals. Just about everybody in the band contributed vocals at some point or other, which really added to it all. But they had a lady on sax, they had a sort of middle-aged lady on sax, they had a same sort of age group chap on trumpet, and they had a younger guy on trombone. So the three of them in the brass section, and it just worked brilliantly for the ska type of sounds that they played. We didn't stay too long because we had a fair drive back, but just a kind of smile from the outset. I mean, you just couldn't help but smile at it. It's such a brilliant sound, really. But there you go. That's the difference really between. I got to see the difference between a good sort of earnest gigging covers band and professional ska type two-tone sounding band, with 8 piece, was it 7 or 8 piece in total? Just one guitar, singer, bassist, drummer, keyboard player. They had everything you'd probably need for a good ska band. And the drummer was this guy. He had a very limited kit, relatively speaking, because you didn't need that massive stuff for that kind of music, I suppose. But he was kind of hidden away at the back of the stage behind his kit, and you could just see him beavering away, but you couldn't really make out. You couldn't distinguish what he was doing exactly. But I think I also liked about that band is that they were. None of them were what's going on here? Chord. None of them were kind of none of them were standing out, trying to be at the front and central. They really worked amazingly well as a unit, which I think makes it's a really good indicator. I've got the sound of a cat. Now this is now unravelling fast because I've got this gone wrong, and I cannot get this damn thing to stay in place and stay on stay on the other end. Damn it. Let's do my head in a bit. So I have to try and lock this in place at one end whilst doing it up at the other. I think we'll get there. Yeah, so I really enjoyed the few tracks I heard of them. So it's the kind of band that would have been great at a private party. It would have had everybody dancing within seconds. Or within the first duration of the first song there, really got everyone up and going. Right. Okay, so for Sadie's info, as you saw, this little nut, this adjustable nut, for all its benefits, the only downside is that you have to make sure you know that it's going to jump off when you change strings. So you have to kind of be ready for that and grab hold of it. And when it does come off, you've got to put it back with the fat face of the tusk bit facing forward, because that's what it's about. That's the launch end. And then you have to sort of do, the only thing you have to remember about that nut is to try and load the strings, not like I did, but load them from the G and the D first, just to hold the string down, and then work outwards. And it's all a bit fiddly anyway, as you know, because of these trapezoid thing, no, whatever, the tail piece. So I'm just going to give everything a sort of general pull to make sure it's firmly attached before I do any further stretching. If anything's not connected, I want it to ping off now, and then I'll go from the middle out. Now it's not buzzing because I've totally changed the action around, so don't worry about that, don't panic, Mr. Mannering, as I used to say. So the first thing I'm going to do is to get my screwdriver and be ready to, or not screwdriver in this case, I'm going to be ready to raise the action back to where I wanted it. And so we have it here and we come back up as far as it goes. I think I might have screwed the things in further than they would normally go, but it's okay. The way this bridge works is those little centre posts can screw in probably further than you might want them to, but this is okay. This will work. In fact, you can have them sticking out as far as you want, but I put them all the way in for the better fixing or the more security. Okay, so just over 1.5 there, and just on 1.5 there, so I'm going to dial in each a little bit, go back to just over 1, and 1.25, so I'll come out a tiny bit on that. So now I'm going to give these a pull as they stand, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tune them up. Be careful, these are quite sharp, so I don't want to bust strings while tuning. So I'm going to tune up. Then I'm going to start the stretching process, and we get each string and we do it between thumb and forefinger with a bit of stretching over there. You don't want to stress it over any of the points, the nut or the bridge, so you try and do the stretching away from that as much as possible. Now this is going to store slack behind here too, so we need to do the same behind this, and it does put pressure on the saddle point, so you have to be kind of careful not to yank it too far forwards. With a guitar like this, you will store up string slack in both of those end areas. You will on the headstock of any guitar, but more on this one because it goes back a long way behind the bridge. So you need to take care of as much as you can of all areas. So you're stretching out, you're bedding the string firmly and tightly onto the tuner post at that end, and you're at the same time removing as much as possible of the slack that exists in the whole train from the two firm anchor points, which is the tuner at that end and the little retainer bit at this end, part of the trapezoid thing. And so however the slack lives, or whatever keeps it in there, whether it's wrapped, stored around the post, you want to get it out before you start playing. Sadie, if you're watching this part of the stretching part is approximately 50% of what contributes towards keeping your guitar in tune from the start onwards once you've changed the strings. So it's really worth doing this bit. So now we've got a guitar that's in tune. Now at the end this is moved and unwound, since actually what it has, it's not quite seated. That's not seated the way I want it. Damn it. Sorry, I've put this back in and it's not seated quite right, so I'm just going to take this off a minute and make sure we get it seated. It's alright on that side, but it's not something holding it up on this side. So I'm going to take care of that if I can. You get in there and sit down flat. What did I tell you? Thank you. Right. Just a tiny little something caught on a bit of glue or something. Right, sit down straight. The pressure of the strings will pull it into its permanent position where it should be. Okay, so once the other little thing is separate from all this stretching thing. If you do end up slacking the strings off, like I've just done, for any reason, you do need to re-stretch them again. Undoing them and doing them up will always put a bit of slack back into it. So even if you had it stable, you still need to do a bit of stretching. Okay, so I'm just back to where we were. That's sitting better the way I want it now. Just making sure it's sitting down, and we'll do any adjustments. No, it's done. It's tipped back again. That's a bit odd. Pause the video. No, I'm just gonna check out what's getting in the way of this bit of the saddle, because it was sat in there beautifully before, and I don't want to kick off with this thing. Right, what is it getting in the way? My glue didn't really do much. I'm gonna just feed it back into there. The reason when I put it in all in one piece together to start off with, because I wanted to be absolutely sure that this was in the right position to kick off with. So that looks good. Stay down. That's really odd. It's like something. I'm going to just scrape a bit of glue off here because something's just got in the way of that sitting tidily. So I'm going to make sure it does. Clean the faces of this. The beautiful thing about the adjustable nut is that if you have a problem like this, I can make an adjustment like now, and then we can take up any, if I lower it to make it fit perfectly, we can take up the slack, if you like, by adjusting the nut further upwards, and that gives us a much better fit. Okay, it's not a bit odd. That was sitting better before. Perfectionist, I'm afraid. Right, what are you doing there? Why aren't you sitting where I want you to sit? Is it because this isn't straight? Is it the slot isn't straight, maybe? Quite difficult to do when you've got wood and polyurethane to work with. It's all different materials. Now, is that the right way around, or am I? Let's just check that we got this even the right way around, because it's pretty close fitting. That's there, that's flush to there. Let's try this. I might even put it on the wrong way around. I think I did, you know. Oh. And let's try this one more time. Do I prefer it this way around? Well, I kind of do, but actually, you know what? That was technically the wrong way around, hence it didn't quite want to fit the way I chose it. What am I going to do with this? Slightly on the side. Slightly. Actually, I like the... Right, okay, brains. I'm going to do a little adjustment because I like it this way around better. So, I have to just level this off the way it currently isn't. So, I'm just going to step this back with a little bit of sanding. And the nice thing about this is we can take up the slack with the nuts, the adjustable nuts legs, shall we say. Okay, I think that should be as good as it gets. So just a little adjustment. I like it to be the best it can be, and we set that in there. We set that in there. Actually, none of it moves at all. That's now seated the way I want. And we'll go from there. And it's also got the angle. I was a little worried about that the first time around. The angle on the nut wasn't quite right, but this is now right. So I'm happy with doing it. So I think I may have tried putting it on not the right way round, shall we say, the first time, considering where it is happiest. Right, let's get this done up. Still pushing it just a little bit out of its position. It's perfect on that side, but it's just a little... I'm going to keep tweaking this because I've got it the way I want, but it's not perfectly... As it's under load, it's just moving out of position a little bit, which I don't want to have happen. And I have a feeling it's because the front edge of this here feels like it's got a bit of obstruction going on. So I'm just going to do what I can just to clean that off. I don't want to get sandpaper on it because sandpaper can be strangely rounded when you get to the corners. You want a sort of a cleaner cut as possible. Okay, stay in there where I want you. I'll try this again under load. And we'll continue in a moment the stretching process. So I think the thing to say is when you change the strings on this, just be careful to make sure when you take the nut out. Actually, let me think. I'll glue it in. What's going on here? Right, that's lowered down now. Okay. So look, okay. That's an odd little thing. Right, I'm going to do a tiny bit more modification just to get this right. And then when it is dead right, I will glue the base bit in so you don't have to worry about when it comes out. You just need to only put the nut back in. So that is there, that is there. Let us take care of this bottom part of the nut here. Let's get this dead flat. Dead at 90 there, please. No, I'm not home. That end's fine, this end just needs a little bit more tweaking. Okay, square, square. And then we'll get this end just a fraction squared off too. And remember, I'm squaring what I want to be the front edge just now. Better squared off, front edge squared, right. front edge squared. Hopefully this will be alright. Now I just want to check that isn't clear at the shops. Nope, clear at the shops. Right. Okay, let's have a feel the way this sits in. How do you sit? Feels better. Yes. Push down, feels better. Yep, all is good. Right, now we go back to the bit of glue and the stick. Okay, so we're going to stick both of these bits at the same time. Well, we're going to stick the base part anyway. Gloopy stuff. Out of the way. Right, so as I put it in, check it's seated in the correct way. Move it to where the strings have got the right spacing, which is there. Press it down. And with a bit of luck, that will stay in place. That's the plan. Usually I get it absolutely right the first time with a little bit of tweaking and fiddling here. That's seated in the gap much betterly now. So we get a little tiny bit of pushed that way. Okay, it's quite a tight fit on this fingerboard anyway, so what I've done is I've made, if anything, about 1/2 mil leeway on the treble side. Right, let us go back to the stretching. Okay, so back to stretching. I'll give them all a bit of a general stretch to get them bedded in, make sure they're in the right place, tune it. Okay, so now I'm going to do a couple more big stretches like this, back to where we were, and then we'll stop, and then I'll do some bends as much as I can. That hurt. And we'll stabilise the strings at that point. And it's at that point, once we got the slack out of the strings, and you need to do this every time you change strings, once we got the slack out, then the rest of the tuning stability is taken care of by this tusk knot. And unlike the previous one, which had some pings, little pings here and there, and got basically provided some friction in the mix to stop it playing correctly, or stop it staying in tune. This tusk knot will keep it in tune, but only if you do this bit, the stretching. Here's a rescued pick. Right, I'm going to do a little adjustment down here because having moved around with the nut in different ways, we can lower it a little bit more. In fact, you can kind of go as low as you like. Okay, a bit more stretching. Basically, it will continue shedding slack until it's all gone. And really, if you've got the time and patience, you ought to stick it out until that point, because once you've got there, your playing will be pleasurable after that. We're nearly there. Can hear how much there's a, I don't know if you can hear it, there's a residual harmonic that goes on out the back of these things. Hear it? You can cut it down. It makes quite a lot of noise. Close. Let's just double check the action at both ends, and so we've got adjustability. We can keep tweaking. We're just on 1.5, which is where I'd want it. We're on just under, or just on 1, so I might tweak it up a tiny fraction. Let's re-examine the end here. It could get you could do it with a, I don't know what the word is, a feeler gauge, or you can tweak it manually, and it should sit down. It's pretty much sat down in its little hole now. There's hardly any gap there now. About the same all over. What happened there? Thank you. Almost stable. Okay, so that's really nice and low. Wow, can go lower. It's pretty much sat perfectly where it wants to be. Okay, so now we're on to the last bit of the formula, which is intonation, for which I need, I've forgotten where I put it now, the blue electric guitar lead, and this is just going to go straight into here. So the thing about intonation is each string needs its own individual length, quite bizarrely, but they do. So the position of the bridge is a sort of an average for this so-called scale length. So for this kind of guitar, the bridge is nominally 25 and was that 3/4? 25 and 3/4 inches from the nut. And that's, I say nominally, because every single string on a guitar of this scale length has its own very slightly different position, hence you've got these adjustable things here. Thankfully we don't have to try and do it by measuring, because that would be kind of impossible, so we do it by using a tuner, and it's quite handy that when this thing is the exact correct length for this neck, with its built-in frets at these particular spacings for this scale length, when it's the correct length, what we'll find is that the pinged 12th fret harmonic is exactly the same tune as the fretted 12th fret note. So pinged harmonic at the 12th, so that's a tiny bit flat. Okay, I've got it on the treble setting with the volume up. Pinging the 12th fret harmonic on the high E, playing the note. That's pretty spot on. That's a whiff flat, but actually hardly, not worth worrying about. So many things buzz on this guitar. I mean, bits of the bridge, bits of this thing here. Right, so the D is a little flat. And so is the A, just fractionally, which is lucky because we need to adjust them the other way. The E is pretty much okay, a tiny bit flat too. So if it's flat on any of those measurements, what it means is the overall string for this neck is fractionally long, which means we need to pull the saddle a little bit closer to the nut to shorten the length. So I'm going to do it here with this screwdriver, and I forget which way it goes, but this is the way. Now, because of the way they make these darned things, there isn't a lot of room to do this adjustment when the three little saddles that I'm working with right now are facing in the direction they're facing. And this is one of the things they do with these Tune-o-matic bridges. They construct them or assemble them with three of the saddles facing, well, call it facing that way, and three facing that way. And what often happens is so little travel room on this adjuster, so often what happens is you find in order to get correct intonation you run out of adjustment room on one set of the three, either the first three or the second three. And in that case, the reason that would be, if we ran out of adjustment room here, is because with the three saddles turned facing that way, the bulk of the saddle, which is about 3mm of metal, is kind of preventing you moving it shorter. So we're trying to move it shorter, but if it can't get any shorter, it's because this bulk of the thing, when it's facing that way, is in our way. So to gain back those 3mm of travel so we can get it correctly intonated, often I have to remove these three, turn them round, take them apart, turn them round, and we get back that extra room. But I think we're just on enough room now. Yeah. Fine. So it wasn't a major problem on this, but on the last one I did, I had to take them off and change them around. Better talk to him in a minute. So there we go, pretty much done. See you in a minute. No rude words. So here's my dad. No rude words, I tell you. There's my dad mastering Skype. His mastery of Skype. Look, he's fully in the picture. Yeah, you're live in the Reloved Shed. So Dad's been here and we're chatting about things in general, and while I've been finishing off Sadie's Epiphone limited edition, what else do they call it? Limited edition Sheraton in the Union Jack finish, and we've got those lovely pickups. Yes, my dad just informed me that some flapjack that Claire made and we took over the other day has cost him one of his few remaining teeth, so I'm feeling extremely guilty now. But just a quick roundup on this video, Dad. Just while you're here, I'm just going to say goodbye to everyone on the thing. There we have it, the setup Epiphone Sheraton limited edition in the beautiful Union Jack colours, which my dad thinks Brian May should have played on top of Buckingham Palace a few years ago, many years ago now. But I explained that he couldn't have done anything but play the old lady, the old girl, or whatever you call it, the old lady, the Red Special. But it would have been cool if you'd had Red Special done up in this livery for the night. Yes, what? That's a little bench over there. It's a bit untidy, isn't it? No. No, not exactly.
And it could be an image of me, I think, that you've played a part with.
No, I don't know what it is, but Dad, you do this all the time. You see strange things in my workshop behind me, and you assume that it's aliens or something. Anyway, just to wrap up, there we go. Epiphone Sheraton limited edition Union Jack, beautiful thing. I've put a adjustable nut on, lowered the action, fret leveled, polished it all up, cleaned it all up, restrung it, stretched out the strings, stressed the importance of stretching the strings out to get tuning stability, and we're pretty much there. I'll play it a little bit more indoors, but it has got these lovely mini humbuckers from Gibson. I could really do with a pair of those myself. Anyway, thanks for watching. Say goodbye, Dad. Give them a wave. Wave. Goodbye for now. See you again. Bye.